covering all your favorite parts of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast with Zach Kyleman and Jim Mernier.
Welcome in, fans of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast. Zach Kyleman in here alongside my good buddy, co-host, pal, friend of mine, Jim Mernier, as we have come out of week one on the other side. Have plenty to discuss, react to, debate on, really just on that week alone. We got week two previews we got to do here. We got an interview with you that we're going to be giving you guys here in just a little bit in the show, so stick around for that. Jim, how you doing? Week one thoughts, man. Let's jump into this right now. How'd you think of week one? First week Iron Man in the NAL, first week of Iron Man back in any league in several years. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's perfect. Get a show going. Got a great guest. Iron Man football week one. I think it's still caught in the rush hour traffic at 5 o'clock in the afternoon in your local city. There's points that were, hello, it's week one. Like, let's go. But there's also points. There are some points on these games where we went a good 3 or 4 possessions with steady play. Then we went through points where it completely stopped, like a traffic jam.
Sure.
But it's week one. Like we've always said in any sport, week one, you get the jitters. And eventually, as the season progresses, it gets better. I'm not the type of person that's going to, like, bash the league and, like, what the heck are you doing? They know. Like, we're not going to beat a dead horse when they know. If you watched the stream last week in San Antonio, the commissioner knows. It's like the chatter, all the chatter boxes and the messages we've been getting. We know. They know. But we're all stuck in afternoon traffic. That's the image I want you guys to see. That's what's going on. We're stuck in traffic right now because it's an early process. We were stupid to leave for our thing during rush hour, knowing we're going to get caught in traffic. So, but overall, the gameplay, like we saw some great plays this past weekend. We possibly have seen maybe the emergence of a new contender for the title that we thought wasn't going to be that case in the offseason. We saw extremely great quarterback play between two individuals. We saw a new rookie quarterback get his own feeling and taste of a matchup in Columbus that, honestly, I feel pretty good about. Our guest will tell you the reasons why he feels good about him. And it's intriguing that we're here in week one. And honestly, with all the hiccups and the illegal substitution, which is the name of our show today, it's only week one, jitters. I'm not going to be a person like, abandon ship. It's over. Let's go. Remember to bring the rum, but let's abandon ship. But no, it's week one, new rules. Remember, this is the first time these refs are doing it too, especially because they did the NAL last year, which was just normal offense, normal offense, defense, special teams. Mm-hmm. A lot of these teams, like we mentioned, the team that gets the formula correct first will jump out of the gate easily.
Correct.
And, go on a little winning streak. We might have seen that in between two teams that played each other in the same week. Of course, you're going to have a winner and loser, but it's not in the city that you guys think that's the obvious. We were going to surprise you. But yeah, overall, Iron Man's just, honestly, dude, I'm not panicking. I know a lot of our listeners want us to be really critique on the situation. I'm not going to critique a product that hasn't shown its evolution into the game yet. It's still early. Come back to me week 6, week 7, and we're still in the same situation. Then you're going to hear my critiquing. But right now, we still got the arena game. And we still saw some moments this week in San Antonio and Columbus and in Albany that make you see, yes, this is the superior arena game. And right now for week one, yeah, there were some things that we'll talk about, but slowdowns and stuff. But that's stuff that you can fix very easily. Mm-hmm. And it's not like we got to fix the gameplay. The play of the game was not an issue. It was just the stoppage and slowage of time. And a couple of teams not fully understanding the rules just yet, but over time that will be fixed.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's week one. I think this was a worry for some about how this would be adapted into a live game scenario. You can talk about Iron Man all you want, but until you get back into it and you have everybody working in sync on how to operate this entire setup again, we weren't going to be, I don't think we were going to have it running smoothly unless they were having to practice it, even with officials on and on and on, which nothing I can tell was the case. So, I'm not 100% surprised. I know for some people it was like, well, dang, I mean, all the slowdowns, could have been, I wish were avoided. I know in Albany, for example, there are several reviews on the subject on certain substitutions. We had a few penalties, of course, for that case. Actually, a kicker, TC Stevens getting removed because of an accidental substitution was something that I had to second guess. I thought he was injured and he got taken out, but I had to sit there and I'm going, oh, wait a minute. That's actually because of the Iron Man setup that they had to do that. So a little confusion there. Now, credit, some of that is depending on the coaches. Some other teams looked a little more prepared for that. Apparently, it's just the games were affected for other issues. So like Albany and Carolina felt like that one. I think, it feels like Coach Rez and Manas maybe, or the crew that was there, have to work out a few things on how the substitutions were, because it felt like a little discombobulated. I'm assuming all Empire fans do not feel happy after that week 1 performance, because even with the substitutions, like my first response off that game was, wow, that was a little sloppy, even for the talent that they have on there. There's some stuff they can clean up. Coach Manas, I think, definitely knows that. I'm assuming you and I know that Levesque and Gaz definitely know that over there. So we'll be seeing that this week. They got a test with Jacksonville, who, by the way, talk about a team that I thought was right on the cusp of their victory, but grabbing defeat out of the jaws of victory, that is, in Columbus, because many miscues over there, penalties as well, throwing that game off, getting a bit of a chippy one, kind of expected between those two longtime rivals in the NAL at this point. But I will admit, QB that you're referencing, Malik Henry, definitely showed his chops. It has me excited for the Sharks. I've been wanting to see him, how he would perform in a pocket presence, less of course, running quarterback elements in the NAL than in other indoor leagues across the country. So did a good job. I was overall pretty impressed. And what I was also impressed with is, as much as I know penalties did have help with some bailing outs at times, Darren Daniel came right in, proved me that he was ready to go with the short week and with the flip over with Mason moving on to DePaul University. Good stuff. I would say that they're in good hands, and that roster, like we talked about, Jason Gibson, he prepares his teams. What can we say at this point anymore? Dude knows how to get them ready to play. Came out on top. Exciting game in overtime at the end there, nonetheless. I want to save this one for you because I don't want to just to pivot here for the final game in our calendar. What'd you think of San Antonio? It was an 8-point contest to end. Things definitely looked a little dire at halftime, but
for the San Antonio, if this was, let's say, week 5, week 6 of a season, I'll look at San Antonio and go, you have a lot of issues to take care of on the field. We're only talking about the on-field product, ladies and gentlemen. But overall, that first game against Orlando was very sluggish. It felt like San Antonio couldn't get out of their own way. And Orlando was basically saying, no, here, have another try. But for San Antonio, you get introduced to these players so far. And for me, it felt like they were introduced to the game just like us, Iron Man game, and they're stuck right in the mold. Like they didn't know what to do. What I did know about San Antonio is their offense. Like we mentioned before, like I was like, we don't see a lot of film on them. We didn't know what they're going to do. They ran I think more shotgun plays in one game than it's ever done in NAL all in its history.
Plenty of shotgun.
There was a couple plays where the quarterback threw the needle on a couple down routes and corner routes. But overall, the worry that both of us had on San Antonio showed itself in the second half. It looked like they were a little bit outgunned, and they were getting honestly, in every type of football game, you win the line of scrimmage. They were losing the line of scrimmage the entire night. And yes, the score was only an 8-point game, but at one point, it looked like Orlando was going to put them away early. And they fought back in the second half. You could tell the game slowed down from maybe that's because Orlando was getting the mixture between throwing Cato and Connor Kagi in the mix. Could have, disrupt the momentum of the game for Orlando. But for San Antonio, for like me and you both stated early last week, we thought this was going to be the ugliest game out of the three. I said it was going to be Jacksonville Columbus, but that turned out to be kind of ugly, even though it went overtime.
Right.
But San Antonio didn't disappoint me on the field itself, the game. But I can look at San Antonio right now, just off of week one, and go, man, they need a get right game to get everything back together, because they kind of found their edge towards the halftime, the second half. But it could have been because Orlando was already far enough ahead that the game Orlando do an epic collapse and lose that game. But problem with San Antonio, their get right game is Columbus, and that's next week. I don't think that's a get right game for San Antonio. I think Columbus, that's going to be a matchup to be, again, was that game against Orlando just a, oh crap, we're not prepared, or oh crap, do we need to make some switches to compete, maybe add some players for free agency to get us up to par? But overall, that first half looked real ugly for San Antonio. It looked like they were just going to get boat raced out of that building. And they fought back in the second half, and I was pretty impressed. And overall, out of the three games, the one game I had the biggest question mark was in San Antonio. Now, the three games, they're not the only question mark that's left in the National Arena League. A lot more have popped up around the league.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was one I think we had made a lot of certainty. And honestly, looking back at the second half of it, I know Orlando, they decided to switch things up, and they gave Keiki a little bit of time to go in as well. But I'll tell you, man, I mean, the Gunslingers were, honestly, they had chances to pull off the comeback. I mean, they got 7-ish minutes left in the fourth quarter. They got stopped pretty much when they're within the Orlando 5.
Yeah.
And then were able to get a quick turnover and go up for a score, and just were down by 8. Still had time to make another stop. So, I mean, even with that being said, switching up QBs and not, I'll give them some props. Definitely we're fighting till the end. I hope to keep seeing that, build upon that, of course. Orlando is, of course, built much more as a defensively heavy team. Does have, of course, has, of course, plenty of outside weapons if needed. I will mention, though, I don't know if it's just one thing or another, but I mean, we were talking about this last week, how Cato's been in with this team since kind of the early going. He was supposed to be the backup projected behind EJ Hilliard. He started the game out. He did get swapped out. Stick with Cato unless, I think you have some, I'm not 100% in Jeff Higgins' mind, so I can't fully go with that, but stick with Rakeem Cato. He was definitely more efficient on the field. He was definitely the one making more of the plays. His scramble ability, as much as the NAL is not really well suited for scrambling quarterbacks as much, It actually helped him quite a bit, especially maneuvering the pocket. So I would say he fits the best out of the two. Yeah. And definitely seems the most comfortable in this offense out of the two as well, especially after this week. No offense to San Antonio, but the top 4 of the league are going to give you a heavier fight, right out of the gate. Again, the Gunslingers, they can take this year, build upon what they got. That's where I'm putting them at. And I take it as steps every week or successes for them. And I hope that sooner, and I'm hoping that first win comes sooner rather than later, of course, and that's for every team. But I think we knew this was going to be for them with the upper level of competition. We're going to be feeling them out a lot. Orlando, this is kind of for them, a little bit of a tune-up game, it looked like, but they're definitely this coming week against Carolina, going to Greensboro.
That's not a tune-up.
Yeah, I mean, it's time to use the best of your best. So Cato's the guy right there. Something else that stuck out this week, speaking of Carolina, going back to that Empire game. Last year for the Empire, even with the normal setup of arena, non-Ironman, I felt at times their defense was kind of leaky and it would let something slip out behind. That felt like it was exemplified even more so. And I don't know if that's just players getting used to their new roles on the system or what, but there were at least 2, and I think max 3 times I can recall, 2 for sure, where you have Kendrick Ings going 15 yards downfield with no one around him. And it's just Jonathan Bain giving a quick chuck and he's right there. And I'm like, man, you can't multiple ones of those in that game. You got a lot to clean up in a week because that's going to, I mean, sure, you can play offense, you can do what you want, but if you have what was the inconsistent performance that the Empire offense had for the most part in that first contest, because it looked like at times Faithful was a little bit jarred to start the game. He got settled in late, but it was almost too late for how that game flow progressed. That's going to kill you. Things are going to have to get solved really quick. And, that's what we were expecting coming out of the gate. They signed a lot of guys that were skill position guys that they were going to probably be tuning over or trying to have fit into the pegs. And it did seem to show a little bit week one for them.
What's strange is all three of these games had a similar narrative, but approach to the final outcome multiple ways. In Albany, Carolina went up there, smacked them around for 3 quarters. Basically, I think Carolina didn't score a point in the fourth quarter, if I'm right. And Albany caught up at the very end, made it kind of competitive, but it was still to a point where there wasn't going to be a comeback to win the game. What you mentioned about the leakage of defense, Jacksonville kind of exposed them last year with their defense, but it's the arena game, and the arena game is very weird where you can give up 21 points in a quarter and be down 21-0 and still win the game by 21.
Sure.
But it seems like last year we had the Lions go up against Albany, and we thought these were the 2 best teams in the league, and turned out they played each other again in the championship game. But Columbus just ran out of the gas. Like, they missed a lot of extra points. They missed a lot of key specialist plays that cost them the game because they actually scored more touchdowns than Albany and lost. But in this game, this whole offseason, me and you have had Carolina and Albany in the top 2 of our power rankings all offseason. We've been telling you, the NAL fans, all year, watch out for Carolina. Don't overlook them. The narrative that we've been getting from Albany fans this whole offseason is like, we're going to do our thing and go through this league again. They got their ego punched in this weekend by the team that we said on this podcast multiple times, watch out for. They had their roster equal to Albany.
It was definitely a gut check in front of that nice home audience. They had a solid crowd come out for that banner drop. I mean, and we're talking even like last year, that whole rush year, like good start for their season this year, getting fans out to there. But yeah, you're going to want to give a better performance come May 21st, or at least start building on that. Cause yeah, like I said, that like Mike Faithful looked a little jarred at times behind the pocket. There were some miscues or things that did not go well for them. Honestly, one of the main miscues that in terms of game flow, especially with how the Empire had been showing that, defense was kind of leaky there. They weren't really able to keep the Cobras at bay. At the end of the first half, they failed to convert a touchdown on the Cobras 3-yard line, down 6 going into halftime. That instantly throws things off. That's one possession lost right there, which is, as we've said in the past, even more crucial in the 50-yard version than it is in the outdoor version. And the Cobras got the ball back, so they extended, of course, next drive to 2 scores. Playing catch up like that with your defense not playing up to par, that's not a good recipe to help you.
And Jonathan Payne playing, well, I can't say near perfect game, but playing a damn good game.
Oh yeah,
he made a couple. He did throw a couple of interceptions. That happens in the arena game, but it didn't lose his swagger. His receivers were wide up and down the field. DJ Myers, Kendrick Ings, James Summers, they were just torching him. And the defensive issue for Albany was exposed early in the game. And I don't say that's bad because Albany doesn't have good players. They have great players. They have a talented roster. Manas's going to get them right. They're going to win a lot of football games this season. They're going to play Carolina 2 more times. I guarantee they're going to win at least one more of those 2 games. It's just sometimes the season's odd. Like in 2019, the Jacksonville Sharks lost their opening game to the New York Streets. Yeah, the New York Streets. And then ended up winning it all. Right. The Carolina Cobras won their title in 2018, lost the opening game, and 2018 they lost to Jacksonville the opening game and went on to win it all. It's like week 1 doesn't determine anything in any league. Look at the big football league in the United States, the National Football League. 5 of the last 7 Super Bowl champions have lost on opening day the next week. Did they go on and win the Super Bowl? Well, the Patriots did that one year, but that was just it. It's very hard to determine the season off of week one. When I saw this game, before we get Coach Manas and the guys in Albany on our backs, you guys have a good roster. You have a damn good roster. This week, this roster that we told you guys to watch out for had the upper hand. And it's not because Zach Brown was kicking, kickoffs. It's because penalties kill, turnovers kill. Carolina capitalized on the turnovers. Albany did not. And that was the determining factor of the game, in my opinion. Doesn't mean that next week Jacksonville will capitalize on the same plays. No, it just means that there are little things that need to be corrected. And Albany's still a good team. If the script follows last year's script, Carolina and Albany are going to dominate everyone in this league and play each other for the NAL championship either. And right now it'll be in Greensboro because they had headed. But they played 2 more times. One more time in Greensboro and one more time in Greensboro and Albany. So you can say it's a best of 3 series kind of. But yeah, that game in Albany, when the game played and how the game was going out throughout the night, I was like, these are clearly the 2 best teams in the league, just based off of rosters. Not watching my game in Jacksonville or in Columbus, which the Sharks are playing, and San Antonio and Orlando. But here is a statement I want to say for the whole league. Albany and Carolina have the best rosters. The substitution rule hurt both teams somehow in some way, but that's easy fixes. But right now, I think the best Ironman teams that are built and stay right now in the league are between Columbus and Jackson. That game was quite different than the one up in Albany.
Yeah, that one, a lot of penalties in that one. A lot more chippiness. Again,
I think there's 24 penalties overall that game. So
a lot of yellow flags. Second half, especially fourth quarter,
every play,
it definitely felt that way. Overtime was a little chaotic. Honestly, the end of the game, just setting up for Brandon Bear to try and win it all, felt very. I don't know, a lot of confusion going on there just to get that kick going too.
Yeah, I still don't know what happened.
Yeah, I think just overall the week, it felt like some procedural things were not clicking right. I mean, go to Albany, for example, it felt like you had some reviews for substitutions, or you had substitution penalties that were a little over the place. And those things the league's going to clean up, as we talked about. It's week 1, hold tight. We're going to get these things sorted out. Is how I can say it, There's going to be hiccups with that. So that's all I can tell you. But I'll tell you one trend that I hopefully want to see corrected. I don't know how quickly we will. Maybe some signings will help, but or something. The kicking, just very very all over the place. Yeah. Well, now, here's the thing. Not even like dead. Like we weren't even getting. I can only think of maybe 1 or 2 kickoffs that got close to a deuce. Like that is very strange for me to go in this week and say, oh yeah, there weren't any deuces this week, or weren't anything coming close to it.
I think it was TC Stevens and Brandon Bear were the 2 ones that at least got the ball to back of the end zone.
Right.
But here's a fun fact. For the first time in NAL history, no deuce was made in the week. First time.
Wow. I mean, that follows the trend right there. I'm wondering, because the ball was being made a kind of a talking point.
Yeah. That was a talking point throughout the whole league. Just not the owners, just not us, just not the fans, not people who are associated with the league. It was the fans. Like, people were noticing, like, this ball is not going into the end zone. Where are the deuces? Like, Brandon Bear kicks deuces. Like, 2 years ago, he led the league or 2019, excuse me. He was the NAL leader in kicks for deuces. So he can do it. TC Stevens, we know he can do it.
Don't think I've forgotten last year's contest in Jacksonville against Albany, where that man had a day. Even getting an end zone score, just the thing bouncing off the wall. Now that was, of course, some dumb luck, but still, like, that man was having a day.
Yeah, as your casual 14-point swing in arena football. That's all.
Yeah, no big deal.
Like no big D. But yeah, the football has become a major issue, and From our sources, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to tell you right now, ball's not going to change.
Oh,
They
I
can't.
don't.
It's not. So, yeah, I think deuces will somewhat go down, but I guarantee you'll see more deuces this week than you did last week. You only need one deuce, and you got more than last week. But that's what makes our game so special is the deuce. And it's kind of odd where you had potential in some of these games, like if a kicker got a deuce, it could have been a make or break of the game.
Sure.
And there's some arenas like you can kick a deuce and get the scoreboard. Happens a lot. I remember in Columbus in 2017, a couple of games, someone's trying to kick a goose. You can only hit it one way to get a deuce. So they fixed the issue in Columbus. Then there was an issue in, I want to say, New York, and in Maine. But people are worried about for the deuce. It's strange. It's kind of odd. Usually we, as fans, people complain about kickers, like they can't make field goals. Now they're not blaming the kicker. They're blaming the ball, which is odd.
Well, I was like something else too. I mean, this is kind of what I'm thinking with the ball. Like, I think I saw more kick returns that are actually brought downfield in 1 week than I even imagine half of the season last year.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of like, wow, this thing is landing in play. Like we're getting actual people bringing these things back.
Well, the average starting position for the Columbus Lions against Jacksonville was literally like the 22-yard line.
Exactly.
Like, you're going to score a lot of points when you start on the 22-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacksonville had some issues on special teams, and it wasn't in Jacksonville. It was noticeable in San Antonio, and it was noticeable in Albany with Antoine. I think it was their Prince or Grant took that one back for a touchdown too.
Nope.
So
yeah.
Prince
brought one back. So
yeah, I don't think that's because of the ball. I think that's more of the Iron Man rule going into special teams and affecting stamina of players. That's my opinion. But the ball, I love the ball. I like what design. I like how the logo is. And honestly, the deuces will come. I just think a lot of it's because of strategy early in the season and try and fill out the Iron Man game. Once the teams knows, like, you know what, we're not doing this. We're just going to kick it in the end zone. There's going to be teams that are just going to kick for deuce every single time. They don't care if they miss or make it. They just don't want to risk their players running down the field, getting rest for the defensive possession. So I think that's when you can see a lot of that there here in week 2.
Some that stuck out, you know, like even like TC Stevens kicking into the sideline. I don't usually see that. I don't know. Well, that's something to monitor as it goes on. I know that I've been told that the material is also a little different than the old ones. Like, because we were seeing, like, you watch Jacksonville, and there are a few times they swapped out. There's the old NAL ball comes on into play. Now that can't continue because you only have a finite supply of the old football. So eventually you are stuck with that. So keep that in mind. Like, it only is going to last as long as your team's supply is able to last. So
and also we had a fan reach out to us, ask us a question about how the ruling is for the football if it goes out of bounds. Of course, if it goes beyond the end zone, it goes to the 20. If it goes out of bounds anywhere in between there, that's where the ball's placed, basically. I think if it hits the scoreboard, it gets placed in midfield. If it goes out of bounds before the scoreboard or before midfield, it gets placed on the opposite field 25. So it's basically where it's the dead ball foul. But if I translate the rules correct, I think that's it. But again, it could also be if it goes out of bounds before the end zone, goes to the 20-yard line all the time, because technically you can't kick a ball out of bounds. It has to stay in play. But I do know when teams are trying to tip field goals and it does that, that's where the ball ends up at. That's where dead ball is, like the outdoor game where you punt the ball and it goes out of the 2-yard line, ball's going out of the 2. If you kick off from the kickoff, it goes out of bounds, the team starting from 35 because you kick it out of bounds. So it's similar to the outdoor game. It's just there's people in the chat rooms and especially on live coverage, like, why is the rules different in the NAL? That's the reason why. It's technically dead ball foul if it's a kickoff from a field goal, but if it's an actual kickoff itself, I think it still goes to 25. It might go to the yardage itself, but I don't know 100% sure, but I think they treat it just like the punting game, field goal game. It's like, think of the field goal game in arena like punting, and think of the kickoffs like kickoffs at outdoor game. If it goes out of bounds before the end zone, it's going up to the 35, in our case, the 20-yard line. If it's a punt, it goes off of the 2-yard line, that's where it's dead. Once it hits the wall, it's dead. If it's a field goal / kind of punt. But of course, there's no punting in the arena, but that's how we treat it in the arena game.
Yes. Yeah. Understandable. Good job explaining there, though.
I tried my best.
I mean, look, that's important, though. I mean, especially, in most weeks in the NAL, out of bounds from the back of the end zone is very common. Generally, is very common. There's no rebound nets in the NAL, so you can't exactly, returns off that don't exist. And unless it's in the field of play, it's either a deuce or nothing. That's the risk of the deuce. So, keeping that in mind. And of course, the risk of going for the deuce is you better have a good kicker that doesn't kick out of the sight line, because you'll get more penalized just for the sideline kicks. And as well, keeping all that in mind. A few more tidbits before we go on to our interview this week. Just wanted to give the awards that the NAL gave out. So Iron Man of the Week is Jermon Forston from the Columbus Lions. Heck of a week for him against the Jacksonville Sharks. I mean, not at all. Like, dude balled 73 yards from the offensive side of the ball, 4 tackles, a fumble recovery, interception, and one of those went for a TD. So definitely had his impact on the game. He was all over the place. Yeah. I'm not shocked at this at all. And the Lions walk out with a come from behind win. He
carried the team in the second half to victory, and that's Forston. And people want to know why. If you watch that game, you see how he was acting. He's so chippery. You got to understand, ladies and gentlemen, Forston played on both sides of this rivalry. He knows this rivalry pretty well between us and between Jacksonville and Columbus. He deserved it. He was everywhere on the field. He was making plays defensively, offensively, special teams, everywhere. That's what an Iron Man is, and he rightfully deserved it. And the other 3 guys who won awards this week are just as good.
Absolutely. And one of those guys we've been talking to, I'll give the last one out, as of course our interview is going to be with this gentleman. So defensive player of the week was Walter Thomas of the Carolina Cobras. Dude was mauling that line again. There's a reason Mike Faithful was having some jitters. Man was making an impact in the backfield. Special teams, Darius Prince, for obvious reasons. Prince, actually, it's funny, on the Iron Man of the Week dropped a comment saying maybe I should have had that, because I'll even list off his, because Prince here, for those that are tuning in, Prince is one of the Iron Man players out there. It's Antoine Grant out there that's a specialist, not him. So keeping this in mind, here was his stats: 107 yards through the air, 3 receiving, a kickoff return touchdown, interception, and 5 tackles on his own stats. But the special teams TD obviously was the main impact that Prince gave. I mean, the guy's an all-around stellar athlete. There's a reason why he was such a big deal coming back to Albany. Offensive player of the year last year. But yeah, dude stepped up as well for even an Empire loss. Part of the reason why they stayed in the game. So at least coming into the second half. And our offensive player of the week definitely deserves some cred. I mean, 4 touchdowns alone on his end. Dude was playing as the MAC linebacker for the Sharks as well. We got Devin Wilson, who was our subject for interview this week. Had a hell of a game against the Lions. They just came up just short in their quest in the jungle. And right now, we'll let you guys listen into our conversation with Wilson, not only on that game, but also on what lies ahead and some of his praises for Malik Willis coming to the Sharks. Joining me and Jim today on our interview series for the Inside the Walls podcast, we have the pleasure of being joined by Sharks receiver and NAL Offensive Player of the Week, Devin Wilson, here in the show. Devin, welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us again, multi-time now interviewee for coming on to the show. How you doing, man? How are things, at least post week 1 for
you? They're going good. Trying to, hit the ground running, get ready for week 2 against Albany. But again, thank you guys for having me on, and, looking forward to talking a little arena football.
Absolutely. Glad to have you on. Great performance for yourself individually, of course, although we understand it is a team sport, kind of just a little bit short there in Columbus. For yourself, what are some takeaways from that overtime loss over there in Columbus, Georgia? Obviously, the jungle is, of course, a little bit more rowdy this year than last, most likely. A little more freedom to have people coming back in. Hostile environment, Ironman rules to deal with. What are your takeaways from this first week for yourself?
Yeah, Columbus, hats off to them. They came out victorious. But they have a pretty good fan base. Every time you go down there, they always have it rocking. Last year, like you said, with the whole COVID thing and the restrictions, it was kind of down. But you could definitely see a big difference this year than last year. But arena football. I think if you're looking at what an arena football game looks like, that one can kind of show you right there, week one. We're up, up going into the half, and then some things didn't go our way, and then we're in a dogfight, and then you're in overtime, and things just kind of trickled down, and the Lions came out on top. But again, that's arena football for you. We as a team, we looked at the film, saw things that we did well, saw things that we, did not so well. And, we've been going to work every day to try to fix those and, get ready for this week against Albany and go 1-0. Every week that's the goal, to go 1-0. And regardless of a win or a loss last week, that's still going to be the goal this week, to go 1-0.
So, Devin, a lot of people here on the podcast know that I'm a diehard Sharks fan, and it's kind of hard now that we're the official podcast in the NAL that I can't really show my bias towards the team. But why the hell not? You're on the show. The Shark Tank, you're finally coming home. What is your feelings about this Saturday night? I've been hearing rumors that we're expecting 7,000 plus in the home opener, which is very common in Jacksonville. What's your feelings about this upcoming game in the Shark Tank?
The Shark Tank, it's no place like it. Columbus has their jungle or whatever you want to call it. And it was, rowdy, if you might call that, but there's nothing like the Tank. We have the best fans in all of arena football. I don't care what level, what 2 motion man, 1 motion man, whatever it is, we have the best arena football fans. They give us a home field advantage. There's nothing like it. I could sit here and talk about that for the whole entire show. The fans, until you build these relationships with these fans. So, you get to see them, year in and year out. So that's always a cool thing. But no, I just can't wait to get back in there, get in Vistar Arena and, get back to the Tank.
Yeah, because last year, Shark fans left that arena with a sour taste in their mouth a couple of times. But we did have a big win in that arena last year. Me and Zach basically said it was kind of a oopsie daisy, like we're not supposed to win that game. But of course, Danny Southwick and the history that is Danny Southwick showed out. And we beat the Albany Empire, who of course, the team this week. What's your preparation to go up against a loaded Albany Empire team, especially against players like Antoine Grant and Darius Prince?
Oh, they have a great team, a really good team. They had a good game last week against Carolina. They came up a little short. But no, like you just said, they have great players on their team, from Grant to, Prince to Hollis, to, McGruger to Fawful, the list goes on and on. They have a former TSU Tiger in C-Lou, what I'm saying? Great, good offensive line. You got a good defensive line. They're former champions, they have it. They're a good team. So, we're doing everything we're supposed to do to, prepare for that, watch film, make sure that we're on our stuff. And, we're going to come in here and just try to play Jacksonville Shark football. And if we do that, I think we'll be, let everything else fall as a must, but I think we'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. Look, I actually got to ask you something here, because one of the storylines for you guys going into the season, we had Warren Smith on a few weeks back, talking about how Malik Willis is kind of taking over that spot, Smith taking more of kind of the coaching role in a way for you guys. Malik got the start this week, which I was actually, both of us were projecting and understanding Warren might have gotten that at least early going, but getting him into the fire. I know you being the receiver, you guys got to establish that connection. How have things been for you in camp and leading into here, kind of, just getting used to whoever's going to be behind the center, at least for these early goings, now that, Malik's going, of course.
Yeah. From day one, I trusted, Coach Burley and, his preparation and, his methodical thinking behind things of how he wanted to do stuff. Regardless of, who decided or who we put back there, I knew we were going to be in good hands regardless, just because of the preparation that both of them put in. You have Warren, that's the veteran, former MVP of the league, and then you have Malik that is, young, can, make any and every throw, very talented, very, very talented.
Oh, yeah.
Still learning the game some, but, Malik's special. I'm just going to be honest with you. I've had the opportunity to play with a few guys, from the Jonathan Baines to the, Arvell Nelsons and stuff like that. Even when I was down here and before Tommy got hurt in 2017, got to practice with him for a little bit. I've had my good share of quarterbacks and, I've seen just in camp and stuff like that, I've seen Malik make some throws that I've even said, wow, that's an NFL throw right there.
Nice.
So, but they both help us in different ways. Warren, again, the savvy vet knows it. You never know what you might get. He might, pull one, bootleg it, shake you or something like that. I've seen it all in his game. Again, at the end of the day, I'm a team guy. I trust Coach Burley, the organization, and that they're going to put us in the best situation for us to be successful. If that is, Warren Smith at quarterback, then that's who it's going to be. If that's Malik Henry at quarterback, then that's who it's going to be. Hey, if that's me playing quarterback one game, then guess what? It'll be me playing quarterback if that gives us the best chance. So, again, I just trust Coach Burley and the organization that they'll have us right.
Right. It's all about, for you, making sure you get your job done correctly, you being specialist and all, but, you're putting the system, you're trusting the system. You want to execute your part of the system right for the benefit of the whole team.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, if you kind of look at it, there's 8 people on arena field. If everybody does their 1/8, then you'll have a hole, and if you have a hole, then that's a pretty good picture. Where you start falling in trouble is where, you have 6 people doing the right thing and 2 people doing the other thing. As long as we focus on us and everybody does their 1/8, we'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the young guys around the Jacksonville Sharks organization, how does it feel like working with Rob Jones and Naquan Murray at the receiving corps?
Yo, man, those electric. Again, kudos to Coach Burley. He recruits very well. He has an eye for talent. And then, you hear about these guys, through the off season, or like Rob Jones, on the other hand, you get to play against them. You see it on the other side and you're like, oh, okay, man, he's a pretty good receiver. And then you see him on a daily basis and you see what he does in practice. And you're like, that's why he's a good receiver. So, I think within our receiver group, we help each other. There's all something that we do different, not only those 2, but Cameron Solomon is another one, young guy that we all, again, you might see somebody do something on some route and be like, hey, man, how'd you do that? And then that'll help you, and vice versa. We really believe in it as iron sharpens iron, as one man sharpens another around here. And, those guys definitely, within the few weeks that we've been together, they've helped me, from, Naquan Murray, just how electric he is. If you get the ball in his hands, there's no telling what might happen. From Rob Jones to his route running and stuff like that, to see how he moves, really, really electric. And then Cameron Solomon, as well, another strong physical guy that, he does a little bit of everything as well. So, we have we might not have the names like an Albany, with the Darius Princes and the, Grants and the Dangerfields and stuff like that. But again, I trust Coach Burley and the organization, and I think they've given us great guys for us to be successful.
Right. Well, I think we saw this week, and I like how you talk the names. Names don't fully get the success in a game. I mean, as we saw, like, both of us predicted Albany to win. Now, credit, Carolina also is in a similar boat. They have plenty of names on that roster too. It was a very high scoring game, but again, that doesn't guarantee you're going to get a victory. You got to still execute your thing. Right now the mentality we've seen around the league is, is it who's better at rotating versus who's building the correct Iron Man squad, is coming off that. Jacksonville seems to be the one off just talking, and based on maybe even talking the way you are, like, it's about building that Iron Man roster out. It might not be like you're saying, might not be the names, but if we can execute the system properly, that'll get everything in the right direction. We can make the best arena team possible in the rule sets that we are in this year. For you, I mean, you've been through arena for so many years at this point. One of the stars in the NAL for several years now. Do you find yourself becoming lately more of the teacher, or more? Are you just looking to learn as you go, even moving on through the years yourself?
I definitely, see myself, being the veteran, as you would say it. I think that's going to be with any team at any level. If you have a guy that, I've had a little bit of success throughout my career. So, these guys, they might see me do a route or something like that they might ask me, or how did you do that, or whatever. And I have no problem sharing, tips or anything like that, because ultimately at the end of the day, hey, we're all wearing the same uniform, and all our goals are should be the same. So to go 1-0 each week, and ultimately win the championship at the end of the year. Definitely see myself like that, but it's also held me to another standard that, I can't just be out here, telling guys, oh, this is how you do it, and then not do it. You got to practice what you preach, and that it's kind of been on me for a couple of years now anyway, because, I'm also a high school coach now. So here in Jacksonville, I have, all my students and players at the games, and, they're sitting there, asking me, oh, coach, hey, I saw you do something last week, blah, blah, blah. And it's like I always have eyes on me no matter what. So I got to make sure that I'm, upholding my end of the bargain, I would say. But again, I've learned some stuff from these guys. I mean, the guys we got, even Warren, has helped me with some things. Even Malik, Malik's helped me with some things. Again, I'm also learning each and every day from one of the best receivers to play arena football. You know what I'm saying? Right. Coach Sauer Burley, is, one of only few receivers that went for 2,000 yards in a season. You know what I'm saying? Like, I take pride in, like, understanding, like, all right, who I'm being taught by. And this guy's one of the best. If he's not in the Hall of Fame for the AFL, he should be. I might be a little biased because he is my coach, or whatever you might want to say. But no, each and every day he's challenging me to help me get better, which ultimately is going to help the team get better. And, now once I learn something and master something, I can pass it down to the younger guys. So it's kind of been a little mixture of both, of everything. But as we like to say around here, that's the Jacksonville Shark way.
So, Wilson, I have had a couple of people reach out to me knowing that I do a podcast. These are also Shark fans. They want to know, what's the deal with the first down celebration that you always do? Every single
man. So all right, so that started in Maine. When I was up in Maine. All right, so one thing about Devin Wilson is I'm a nerd. I'm a big nerd. Like, I love reading books. Stuff like that. Not only books, magazines, just anything that can help me better myself. I'm always about self-betterment. The Hunger Games, when that first came out, that was like my thing. That was like one of my first things. So at first it started off at like shooting an arrow, but I was like, man, that's taking too much. That's taking too long and stuff. So basically it's like me pulling out an arrow out of my back and, throwing for the first down. the shoulder shake and everything just kind of that just kind of, I don't know where that came from.
Evolution
kinda,
of it.
Yeah, that just kind of came from a little bit of evolution, But again, having my high school kids at the games, we'll be in practice or something, and one of these kids will get a first down in practice, and they'll do it in practice, and I like it. I really do. I'm like, oh man, that's really cool. But then the football coach in me is like, hey, you can't do that. We're playing high school football. We're going to get a penalty. You know what I'm saying? So, no, it's cool. It's just, at the end of the day, we're performers. Just trying to give a show for the crowd. You got to think, when I came up around arena football, 2016 was my rookie year in the AFL. That's when Tiger Jones was here or, around. That's when, the Joe Hills, those guys, the Mo Ruffins and all them. And I just remember seeing these guys play, and like they would have these, choreographed celebrations. And I'm just like, oh my God, like you really had to think about that all week for you to you knew that you were going to score all week. And, kids come to me at school like, hey, coach, you got to hit the gritty. You got to do this. You got to do that when you score. And, I've told them now, it's like, look, man, I've scored so many touchdowns. I run out of stuff to do. So, now the Gronk spike is kind of what's, it's come to now when I hit the end zone. So, be looking out for that at an arena near you.
One of my favorite celebrations you ever did was in Orlando last year. You caught a normal, I think it was a slant route, and you were looking to do something, and you went up and you proposed to the cheerleader, like give the football, and she gave you this nastiest look like, who is this dude? I was like, that's going to be on the highlight reel somewhere. And sure enough, the NAL highlighted it. I'm like, what a proposal that went wrong, but it was still one of my favorite ones I saw you do. The other one, you did like a double clutch and you banged the football. I think that was either in Orlando or in Jacksonville. But yeah, like you mentioned about Tiger Jones and Joe Hillis and Eddie Brown back in the day, their celebrations are what made this game interesting. And you did say you're scoring too many touchdowns. And well, you're on the top list of receiving touchdowns in the NAL, so that's you. But still, that proposal one, I think, has to be one of your best because it was the most, out of the blue, and the people around you had no idea what was going to happen. Even that cheerleader, that look that she gave you, I'm like, oh, she's pissed. So I think that's your favorite one, in my opinion. So
yeah, no, that was a pretty good one. I would say if I had to say my favorite one, it will be between two different ones. And the crazy thing about this is they were both against the Jacksonville Sharks. So my rookie year in the AFL, when I played for Cleveland, all right, we played against Jacksonville on ESPN. We were down by 20 points. And Coach Tunn ends up putting me in the fourth quarter. He's like, go in and don't come out. I'm like, all right, cool. I like this plan. So he puts me in, and I scored 3 touchdowns to win. We win on ESPN. It was a big thing for me, with my rookie year and everything. But my first touchdown of that quarter, it was my mom's birthday. And in the locker room pregame, I wrote on my undershirt, "Hi, Mom." And I remember CT, Colin Taylor, was like, what are you going to do with that? And I said, when I score, I'm going to pull it down. And I told the camera guy before the game, I said, hey, man, I'm going to score a touchdown and I'm going to come right here to you. And he was like, oh, yeah, I'll be right here. And it was just by the luck of God, I guess, that the touchdown I scored, I turned around and the cameraman's like sitting right there at me. And I was like, oh, yeah, perfect time. Nice. And I pulled the shirt down and it said, hi, Mom. And she was watching back at home in Tennessee with a bunch of friends and stuff. And it was her birthday. So that was pretty special to me. And then the second one, I guess this would be 1B. We played against the Jacksonville Sharks when I was in Maine. It was the last game of the season. We weren't making the playoffs. They were about to make the playoffs, but we bumped them from the 1st seed to the 4th seed. And we were like, hey, man, we're going fishing. We're going fishing this week. Hey, we're going fishing for sharks. So I put a fishing pole behind the end zone. And as soon as I scored, I pulled it out and reeled it.
That was you?
What?
And Poe, Adrian Allen Poe laid on the ground like it was a fish and started like hopping back, and we picked him up and took a picture. That was
I
pretty
remember
cool. That was pretty cool.
Didn't know that was. I thought that was Poe, not you. But
no, that was me. That was me. So yeah. I mean, I've had my fair share. When I was in the AFL, I rotated, so I wasn't really in that much because of the receivers we had on that team. Oh boy. So we played the Philly Soul, and Jaws was at the game, and he was talking a lot of, stuff, being a good fan and a proud owner, as he should be. And he told me, "Hey, man, you be quiet until you get in the game." I said, "Yes, sir." Yes, sir. As soon as I got in the game, his all-arena middleman, James Romaine, got bombed, touchdown. So as soon as I did that, took the ball right over to Jaws and put it right in his lap. And I got fined. I got fined by the AFL for that too, but it was worth it. It was definitely worth it. So yeah.
Perfect. My last question is, what keeps you coming back to Jacksonville? 17, you were with us, then you, I think, left and went to another team in 17.
To Maine.
And then you came back. And now you can say that you're the longest reigning Shark in the NAL. What keeps you coming back to Jacksonville? Because you've seen Bain, Faithful, and a lot of players go to other teams in the league.
Yeah, it's home. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I would say. I played college ball with Joe Hills at TSU. And again, I started seeing what he kind of became, when I was finishing up college and he was, being Superman, and I saw, these guys just move around, bounce around from place to place. And sometimes I was just like, oh, that's tough. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I started looking at other guys in other sports, like the Kobes, the Dirks, the Tim Duncans, guys that stayed with one organization for their whole career almost. And that's something I kind of wanted to do. I remember when Coach Burley recruited me to get me back here in 19, he said something that really stuck with me, and it still sticks with me to this day. He was like, if you keep bouncing around from place to place, you're never going to have anywhere to hang a picture on. You're never going to have a home to hang, your hat, to hang your, a picture. And that kind of stuck with me. 19, 17, won my first championship ever, besides the Little League, but won my first championship. That was big, very, sentimental to me. 18, I left, that it is what it is. 19, I came back, won another championship, had my best year statistic-wise, I guess you would say, under Coach Burley. 20 was the COVID year. 21, Coach Fuller was here. And then, 22, we got Coach Burley back. It's just, it's home. The Sharks, it's home. I love the organization. I love the ownership. I like the city. And too, to be honest with you, I want to, there's certain goals and stuff that I have for myself. I want to, like they talk about like AG and stuff like that, how he, we have a Sharks Ring of Honor, who would you put in the Ring of Honor? I want my name to be in something like that, and if I keep bouncing around from place to place, that'll never happen. So that's kind of what's keeping me here a little bit. And I think I look good in red and black, a little bit as well. But no, Jacksonville is a great place, great city, great fan base, best fan base in arena football. You go to these other places too, and you see, how things are handled. And then you come here and you see how things are handled here, and it's like second to none. So it's hard to leave that, professional organization, top notch, I don't know any other team in the NAL that practice, the Jaguar Stadium was right next to our stadium. Right. Jaguar Scouts are at our games. You know what I'm saying? What else do you want? We got the coverage. We got the the pro teams are here. We got the best fan base. We got some of the best looking uniforms. We got the best turf. We got the best arena. I mean, what else do you want to, why leave? So, I don't know if a lot of people know this. Like, I have a shark tattooed on my leg. You know what I'm saying? That'll kind of be hard to yeah, and explain to people. You know what I'm saying? So it's home, and I love it here. So something drastic will have to happen in order for me, hopefully, not to retire a Jacksonville Shark.
Right.
So sticking with Jacksonville, you're from Tennessee. There's a mutual hatred between the two areas between the Titans and Jags. Who's your allegiance in the NFL?
Oh, I'm a Titans fan. All the way.
Yeah, I know.
Tighten up.
But see, we're good friends now. You're Sharks, but NFL season, 1999.
Oh, yeah.
I can't get that year out of my head.
It's tough. But I'm a big Titans fan. Big time Titans fan. I wear my jersey to school and stuff on Spirit Day. Even when I go to the Titans Jaguars game, I wear my jersey and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I'm a big Titans fan. Now, I do support the Jags. I do support the Jags. I will say
against
that.
your team.
Not against the Titans, though.
Yeah.
They can win any other game, especially in the AFC South, but they cannot win against the Titans. So I'm okay with that.
I can respect that. So that's all. So you went to school in Tennessee. I'm like, you're from the Nashville area. You were on our show last couple months ago with Zach, and Zach asked about if a team popped up in Nashville, your arena team, will you decide to go up there? And you said in that podcast that something really, like you just now said, drastic needs to happen for go back to Nashville. But you said you remember back in the day the Nashville Cats and arena football in your hometown. Mm-hmm. So that's why I had to bring up the Tennessee Titans, like what's your allegiance, because the two, Nashville and Jacksonville, do not like each other come the fall in football. You listen to local radio here in Jacksonville, it's like Tennessee could be playing San Francisco on a random Monday night. That Tuesday, we're bashing Tennessee, even though Tennessee won or lost. I'm like, the two cities do not like each other, even though right now the Titans have the upper edge against the Jaguars. But us Jaguar fans, ladies and gentlemen, no, this is not NAL related. Still remember 1999. The best team, still to this day, the best team that year in NFL did not win the Super Bowl because the Titans knocked us off in the AFC Championship game. And I still can't let that down to this day. And it's been – I don't want to look at the day.
Had the secret sauce in '99. That's it. I mean,
it's been over 20. It's been over 20 years, Keisha, but still, yeah.
It's I'm a big Titans fan. Kind of always been ever since the Oilers, moved to Nashville, and then changed the name to the Titans. I was fortunate enough to Steve McNair. Was a sponsor of one of my Little League baseball teams. So, getting to see him all the time and stuff like that, that was kind of cool. And then, now we know, especially with my alma mater, Tennessee State, being coached by Eddie George, former, Titan great, you kind of got a root for the Titans. So, I'm Titan up all the way.
Oh, Eddie George.
Oh, Eddie.
He used to having flashbacks and nightmares with Eddie George and Samari Roll and Albert Hainsworth.
Oh,
yeah.
And Javon Curse.
Oh, and Javon, yeah. University of Florida defensive end. No, Keisha Louisa couldn't stand that team. But usually this is like good trash talk. You're the only Titan fan that I know personally, or not really person, but right now.
Yeah.
But every time I come past a Titans fans, 1999, it's like, yeah, you're 2 yards short. Bam.
Yeah. Hey,
so I always get that with Titans fans.
I tell people all the time, though, you got to get there in order to lose it.
Touche, my friend.
You got to get there in order to lose it. So it is what it is.
And I always do this with people in Jacksonville. Go, we need a championship organization football team here in Jacksonville. Go, we do. They don't play in the stadium. They play in the arena. And they go, I thought arena football is over. I'm like, no, it's not over. Jacksonville's still winning titles and championships, unlike the team from across the street, which plays in a bigger stadium. And that's one thing I like, how, like, you're still in Jacksonville. You love the city. And people don't realize Jacksonville gets bashed for being a crappy city, even though they don't even live here. They go, oh, it's just a pit stop to go to Orlando, which is kind of insulting because technically Orlando is still kind of a pit stop too, besides Disney World. Not a shout out to Orlando, just saying we hate you too. It's a Florida rivalry here, ladies and gentlemen. Like, if you've never been to Florida, you don't understand. People in Tampa dislike people in Jacksonville. People who live in Orlando can't stand people in Jacksonville, Miami, and vice versa. We all hate each other, but live in the same state. So when you say, oh, Floridians are Floridians, yeah, because we don't even like people from St. Augustine, and they're just 2 blocks down the street. Welcome to the state of Florida. And only people in Florida will understand it. So when people make fun of our state, I go, we agree. We make fun of you just based off of counties. But still, I just want to say, Devin, that you've been if they say do a Ring of Honor and Mount Rushmore of the Jacksonville Sharks, you're definitely on that list. You, Aaron Garcia, maybe the top of my head, maybe Jeff Hughley from back in the day. There's a couple players, but you're definitely one right there by Garcia, the starter franchise.
That.
So, especially in the NAL, you are the best. People say this is not the shout out to Albany fans. Yes, Darius Sprance is good. Yes, Antoine Gwant's good, but the best receiver in the arena football plays in Jackson. He's been here since 2017. Yes, that's my fan coming out, but Darius Sprance is damn good, but he's only been in the league for a year and a half, probably. Of course, he played in Philly, but you've been in Jacksonville for a couple years now, and you've proven each and every single week that you are the best in the arena. You just don't get enough love from the people over in the corporate office, but you will get all the love here in today's show as the best receiver.
But that's all good. That's all good, and I appreciate that. I really do. You know what I'm saying? I understand where rankings and all that stuff. It's all cool, but I'll tell somebody this, all right? And I would ask anybody to go look at the receiver-wise, the quarterbacks they play with. Look, no knock to, to any quarterback I play with, anything like that, but look at the quarterbacks I've had to play with. You know what I'm saying? I've had to play with multiple plural quarterbacks in multiple seasons. You know what I'm saying? When I was here in 2017, I played with Fleming. You know what I'm saying? I played with Boltus. All right, that's 2 different quarterbacks right there. We even had another guy. McCain. All right, and then when I was in Portland, I had Jonathan Bain, Kenyatta Allen. That's 2 more quarterbacks. In 19, Jonathan Bain and Mike Foffel. And even Gary Chenault. All right, that's another one. 21. I'm not even going to go down that list of 6 different quarterbacks I had to deal with. All right.
Good Lord.
So
I can name them all, but I won't.
but at the end of the day, I think what I take pride in is I don't care who you put back there throwing the ball to me. My job as a receiver is to catch the ball. I don't need a high-profile quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Would it make my job a lot easier sometimes? Yes, it would. And it would be, but at the end of the day, my job is to catch the ball. Whoever throws it to me, wherever they throw it to me at, my job is to go catch the ball. And I think I've showed that consistently, and I'll tell a lot of people this too. I feel like a lot of defensive coordinators, when they play against me, they're trying to figure out ways how to slow me down, how to stop me. You know what I'm saying? And I take pride in that. I welcome that challenge every week. So, at the end of the day, people are entitled to their opinion. Yes, they are. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, men lie, women lie, the numbers don't lie. So go look at the numbers.
Also, a great quarterback, Hall of Famer, Peyton Manning, was in an interview about quarterbacks creating receivers. And Peyton Manning made the greatest comment. He goes, sometimes the receivers make the quarterback's name. And he mentioned all the guys he played with from ND to Denver and even college. He goes, Peyton Manning would not have been what he is today without his receivers. And that really got me. It's like, wow, usually when you hear people say, oh, Tom Brady didn't play with anybody. He created the receivers. And when they left, they became nothing. But Peyton Manning with that quote said, sometimes the receivers make the quarterback. And you proved last year in Jacksonville, the carousel that was the quarterback room, that you helped those young guys, and even Southwick, the vet that he was, do at least what you competitive towards the end of the year. Even Bain came in last year, the very last second, to try and get that playoff spot. You were always the consistent player last season and in 2019 that your quarterbacks trust you, even though they were either vets like Faithful and Bain or a young guy like Connor Kagi or a legend who's been everywhere like John Southwick. You were there. And that's quote by Peyton Manning goes, sometimes receivers make the quarterback, not quarterback making a receiver. Really got to me in this moment because you're the example of that from last season. And I don't know a lot what happened to Maine, but you are the guy who basically carried the torch last year for the Sharks and helped those guys grow. And look at them now. Connor almost I think he got the starting job in Orlando, or he is. And Southwick is doing his thing in the other football league. So I still can't believe he's still playing, but still, that just tells you how you are as a receiver. Quarterbacks trust you. And if you become a trusted target, that helps create the quarterback. And that's what I got from that quote or interview from Peyton Manning. You got to look that up. I got to find that. That's what I'm going to do tonight.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of some of the things I preach to my high school receivers now at Andrew Jackson. You know, if a quarterback gives you a shot, 50-50 ball, whatever you want to call it, you're double covered. I don't care. My college receiver once told me, we are receivers and not retrievers. All right. A receiver is going to receive the ball. A retriever is going to be somebody that go picks the ball up off the ground after you drop it. So, if you want that trust from quarterbacks, if you want the ball on your way, I think the answer to that solution is very simple. Catch the ball. You know what I'm saying? No matter where it's at, no matter how it's thrown, there's no perfect ball except for the ball thrown your way. So go get it. And it's just something that's kind of been drilled within me, and it's just I've just been very blessed and fortunate. And, hopefully I can continue to keep this up, again, it's my job to catch football. So if I'm not doing my job, somebody else will.
Nice. Well, Devin, thank you very much for joining us today. Honestly, wishing you guys the best here in your first home game with Albany coming to town. Should be a hell of a contest, honestly. One heck of a show as you put on, with the entertainment aspect of it. So looking forward to seeing you ball out there come this Saturday. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate it. Again, I thank you guys for having me. For everybody that's watching this or listening to this, come out this weekend, April 30th to the Shark Tank Vassar Veterans Arena, and pack it out. Let's get that Shark Tank packed, and let's get it rocking and show everybody why we have the best fans in all of arena football. So thank you guys for having me on. It's a pleasure as always, and fins up.
Special thanks once again to Devin Wilson for joining us on the show, and congrats again for his Offensive Player of the Week nod. Definitely going to be looking forward to seeing him get that home opener for the Sharks at the Shark Tank this coming weekend. I mean, it's going to be packed up. Like you said, man, 7,000 plus tickets sold already in there. That thing's going to be rocking. And the Empire are going to come in. I mean, that's a hotshot team. That's going to be a heck of a game for them to test themselves after that loss to the Lions. Week 2. Here's another thing I want. Well, I'm curious what your thoughts are, Jim, because we're talking about the two, like Carolina and Albany. They're more the skill sets fitting into the Ironman rules. Talent overall will finally compensate and get things in order. Meanwhile, Jacksonville this week is going to be one of those teams that comes in and says, hey, we're designed more like an Ironman team. Now we get to see those two mentalities clash a little bit for the first time this year.
Yeah, well, I mentioned before, and I mentioned in the interview, I think Jacksonville and Columbus from week 1 were the more Ironman design defensive, especially team, basically. The team. Why am I saying offensive? See, we get these type of moments, ladies and gentlemen. I'd go on a tangent.
It's the movement of the arms. You're like,
the movement of the hearts, Kaliman. Kaliman, yeah. I just put an Indiana Jones reference into the podcast. Hope we don't get dubbed by YouTube. But I think Jacksonville and Columbus have the better overall Ironman rosters right now. They may not have the talent that is Albany and Carolina, but in the Ironman game, the underdog, of course, may have the system more intact, like know the formula, they can knock off a team with superior talent or better talent, or in this case, in the National Arena League landscape, they do have a better overall roster based on more notable names than Jacksonville does.
Right.
But we look at the week 2, Shark Tank, the epicenter of the National Arena League, where every single team in the league, not taking shout outs out to all our listeners out there, every player had this, like what Devin Wilson said. He's been in teams where he looks at it, goes Jacksonville, this is how it's done right. That's the common narrative you hear from every player we've talked to, coaches we've talked to about Jacksonville. Jacksonville is the brand in the National Arena League. No matter if they're first place in the standings or fifth place in the standings, people circle Jacksonville. You go, you know what? We got to beat this team. They're the Alabama of the NAL. They may not be record-wise, but you circle that date. It's like, we're playing Jacksonville. We got to get ready. They are the moniker. They are the pinnacle of this league. This game this week against Albany, with the tickets sold already and with the projections of about 7,000 to 8,000 fans in the stands, it's going to be a raucous crowd. In Jacksonville, no matter if it's week 6, 2, playoffs, it's a hostile environment. Yes, Mike Faithful came. He's played here. A lot of these players in Albany have played in Jacksonville. Antoine Grant played with a good Columbus team last year, came to Jacksonville, kind of shut up the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
The Shark Tank is unique. No matter if it's regular arena game or it's the NAL version of the game or Ironman version of the game, the Shark Tank doesn't change. And I look at this game and I look at the Ironman perspective. Albany's coming in like we just lost to Carolina. We're the better team. We know we're the better team. They're going to go out and try to prove it. Nos is going to get the game switched. But the question is like, Jacksonville is secretly a pretty good team that didn't get enough credit last week. They, like what Wilson said in the interview, penalties got in the way and started downfall. They correct those mistakes. Jacksonville could literally be just as good as Albany, just as good as Carolina. We thought they had a quarterback issue, but from the videos and from the highlights that we've seen from Malik Henry, the team, I think, is in a good position. And one thing about you think about the Shark Tank is no matter if Sharks are 3-6 or 16-1, it's not going to be an easy win for anybody to go in the Shark Tank.
Oh no way.
And for Albany, they're limping their way into the Shark Tank. Just imagine if they started 0-2 after what happened last week and becoming the champion. A title that has not been given to anybody yet in the National Arena League. No defending NAL champion has started 0-2 next year.
Mm-hmm.
Does Albany? No, I know they don't think about that. I know the guys up north, the guys in the don't think about that, but statisticians like me and you, we look at those little storylines. But the benefit of it is the Ironman game is unique. We saw the explosiveness that was the Carolina's offense and Albany's offense up there in Albany in week 1. Mm-hmm. And we saw the disadvantage of that explosive offense as a defense that was getting exposed. Jacksonville against Columbus looked pretty solid both sides until the second half. And then Columbus got their act together. And then Columbus just fed off that energy of the fans that was in attendance and the game altered. The Ironman game is unique, man. But for the fans out there, we're not previewing the game right now. I'm just talking about the Ironman, the Shark Tank influence and all.
Right. Well, again, remember, this is just like we've been looking to see because of the different philosophies. This is the first time we get that mashup against each other. So you'll be able to tell, like, okay, does talent win out? Like, kind of think of this like an NBA conversation. Yeah. Does talent win out or does your system win out? That's what I'm looking at this game for. That's the first one of this with the Ironman rules. We'll see. Does the system benefit or is the talent benefit here?
You made a great comparison. NBA. We're currently in the national NBA playoffs are going on right now. Usually the better team wins the series, but that doesn't mean the lesser team can win a game or two. Like, yes, LA Lakers back in the day can sweep the Utah Jazz 4-0, but there was a lot of series where you had, Lakers beat the Kings 4-2, even though 2 bad games. Jacksonville and Albany have played each other 2 times and split 1-1. Albany was a damn much better team last year than Jacksonville was. And Jacksonville pulled off an upset. Upsets do happen. Right now, we're only week 2. Teams are still trying to figure each other out. But the emphasis of home field advantage, especially in a building that is like Jacksonville, that team that kind of already has figured out the system already from week 1, just looking from based on week 1, is now home with 7,000 fans and the fan base is eager to get back into that thing and get things going because they remember what happened last year. It's going to be this talent in Albany overthrow the strategy of Jacksonville and the 7,000 fans that are going to be in attendance in Jacksonville for this game. That's going to be the key determining factor. Can Faithful be against a fan base that was for him last year, who won a championship with last couple of years ago? He knows the Shark Tank. I'm just saying, home field advantage is big in playoffs. But in the arena game, if you have a home field advantage, you're going to win a lot of games just based off of that, especially with the uniqueness of Iron Man right now. The communication that is needed in this league right now for these substitutions. You thought it was difficult in Albany? You thought it was difficult in Columbus? Wait till Saturday night in Jacksonville. 7,000 fans in the building. Attention, we do have horns and we do have thunder sticks and we like to blow them anytime, anywhere, even when our team's on offense. So we're kind of it happens, but yeah, it's from the reason why I'm so pumped is I'm finally going back home. I'm finally going to the home game. I'm excited to be back in my seats in the Shark Tank for a new season.
So you will be there, right?
Oh,
like you are
I'll
going.
Here.
I mean, this is just formality at this point. I'm just making sure.
I got tickets, man. I'm going to the game. I'm going to go down to the visiting sideline and go, Levesque, what's up? Go bash him, go talk to Coach Manasseh, probably trying to find a way to sneak onto the field, which I think I can most likely do. And pregame, I guarantee it. Give
us a status report. Next week. I want to hear about this.
If not, I'll just go to I'll just go to Devin Wilson or Steve Kerr and say, "Yo, what's up? So, you're part of us. You come down here." So yeah,
I see.
But yeah, it's I'm looking for it. I'm pumped about this game. I'll give you my prediction and I won't start breaking down. But the intrigue. This is what the National Arena League wants to thrive in the league. Is what Jacksonville fan base and operation is Jackson. A lot of people hate us because we're the Jacksonville Sharks, but a lot of people love us because of how we run our operations. As a fan of the league, as me and you cover the league itself, we want to see this in San Antonio. We want to see this in Carolina. We want to see this in Orlando. We want to see this in Albany. Albany is starting to do it. I like what Albany's doing. Carolina's doing Columbus is doing a great job in Orlando. We don't know yet. We're a couple more weeks before we go in Orlando. But if it's based off last year, I'm very confident Orlando's going to be the same way. This is what we arena football fans want, is what is going to happen Saturday night with the atmosphere in Jacksonville. That's all I got to say. Overall, Iron Man game, we'll figure it out. Every team will. There's some intriguing matchups in week 2. But before we get to intriguing matchups, let me calm down, get off the high horse. I know this has been a Jacksonville Powered podcast because of Devin Wilson. Thanks again, Devin, for joining the show. I'm going to make sure to find you in the game on Saturday night. I may be the fat white guy that doesn't belong on the field. That'll be me most likely. But if not, I'll just call Chris Siggers. Chris, what's going on? I don't get the treatment here in Jacksonville. I'm going to be a free agent and fan.
Free agent next year.
I'm going to be a free agent. But again, great opportunity that we have covering the league, by the way. Again, really our official podcast in the National Arena League. So I just want to say it's time to do our power rankings.
Yes, it is. Absolutely time before we give any of our predictions and picks here. It's time for the power ranking. I mean, we've been leading up to it the whole show. And
Correct.
Let's just dive into this bad boy. So you should be seeing on the screen here.
Usually, it's either right here or right here. I don't know where my face is going to be on the progression. But
it all depends on
where our
faces are in the video.
It may cut half of this off, but okay, you might see this part of the face and Zach's part of the face. But
right
here it is, ladies and gentlemen. So you see it.
You'll see our power rankings. Really, there's only one point to discuss on this. I mean, we're pretty locked in on very similar picks here. The top
Correct.
3 are kind of staying. Talking before the show, Albany's of course slipping because they lost. But we recognize their roster still very much on paper is talented. They just have things to clean up. Columbus rallying from 14 down. I mean, they definitely deserve to jump this week. I had them down at 4 for crying out loud. So, they definitely deserve to be down there. Only main thing we're talking on is where's Orlando and Jacksonville fall? I kind of want to hear yours first because I have my own theory on this. I'm going to hold off. I have my own theory as to why I have them at 5.
So as you have Orlando as 5, I have Orlando as 4. And as a Sharks fan, I mean, I'm just getting off my high, just their second go up on Shark Tank. You look at the power and go, Jim, you're so high on the Sharks. Why you have them 5th? Here's the reason why. Me and Zach both have Albany at 3. Yes. And Albany dropped down. Yeah, Orlando won. I credit teams that win games more than the overall status of the team right now. Orlando found a way to win the game. Jacksonville barely lost to Columbus, but then again, everyone barely lost this weekend. And I look at my number 4, and people go, why do you have Orlando over Jacksonville? Orlando won. Jacksonville lost. That's the only big difference. But I have Jacksonville dropping 2 spots from last week. And it's because Albany lost. Albany lost and because Carolina and Columbus won. But the reason why I have Jacksonville at 5, it's not just because I don't think they're the 5th place team in the league. I think they're better than 5th. I think they're still better than Orlando at the end of the season. I just don't think, as of right now, if you put the rosters together and what happened last week, I give credit to the W's and the L's over roster size at this moment. And also, Orlando's always been that dark horse to me and you over the last couple of years of why not us, but they always find a way to sneak themselves into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's, for me, I have Orlando above Jacksonville just because of the win, but the benefit of Jacksonville and Orlando, we could play each other 3 times this year too, same as Columbus, we played 3 times. So it's going to be a very interesting season, but early in the season, early power rankings is just like the old BCS bowl games. Like, how many teams actually went to the BCS championship game when they started number 1 and 2 in the league? Very few. There's going to be some odd upsets, but right now I have Jacksonville below Orlando just because of the win over San Antonio. Now, so Jim, you have that same mindset. Why is Albany not number 3 and Orlando not number 3 in the rankings? Albany started number 1. They're the defending champions. I'm not going to drop them from 1 to 4 like that off of a team of Orlando beating San Antonio. No. Do you see? Let's name a random college football. Do you see Wisconsin beating Northwestern and jumping an undefeated Alabama, who just beat, I don't know, Clemson? No, that never happens. That's why. Yes, Albany was the bigger brand entering the season. Now, is there potential to jump? Yeah. But right now, based off of the standings, I have Columbus, Orlando 1, 2, Albany 3 because of their loss to Carolina. Did I just say Albany 1, 2? Excuse me. I have Carolina, Columbus at 1, 2, Albany at 3, and Orlando at 4. But this just based off of wins right now, Orlando's advantage over Jacksonville by ranking is just a win over San Antonio. But they're that close from each other. It's not a big separation. But right now, my power ranking, yes, I have Carolina as the number 1 team in the NAL.
And you see, this is where I'm divulging to quality of opponent at that point. And mainly our preseason poll, we had San Antonio at 6 because they're stepping in with a higher up league. One of the big 3, as we've listed them before. They came up from a lower level, so we wanted to see how they did. That's why, and they've been at 6. Orlando, to me, was already at my 5, but I need to see more proof in the pudding. Again, I recognize what Orlando does well, what they have on that roster. I think I also want to see this week where, again, I want Rakeem Cato starting. I want to see him against some of the better cream of the crop, the top 4, the guys that I think will be in the playoffs right now that are currently my power rankings. Even with Jacksonville's loss, Jacksonville, it really came down to just a few mistakes. They really look crisp. So, that's kind of why I can't move them too far. I thought Orlando let things slip a little too much in the second half for me to give them a nod above Jacksonville. I also think that you're going to see them tested a lot against Carolina, which I know we mentioned a lot about how Albany and Jacksonville are kind of that two mindset competition. Orlando and Carolina also are as well. And I know that we didn't really touch on that one as much just a second ago, but don't overlook that matchup too, because it's a similar deal. More Iron Man pure setup with the roster versus talent and being put in those positions. So keeping that all in mind, that's something to keep an eye on. So the Predators will get my test this week, I think, as more of, can I move them above 5? And I don't mean offense to the Gunslingers. It's just, again, the team's very new. The roster has many guys coming up from a lower level league. Not saying that you can't compete. You did, of course, with Orlando. And I think that you're going to keep improving every week. But for now, level of competition, I can't put them above Jacksonville because they fought Columbus into overtime. It's hard for me to knock them all the way down to 5, even though there's only 6 teams in this league. They're still my top 4 right now, and they proved it last week. So, obviously that could change. This week's going to be really important to see, what philosophy stands out the most. Can guys improve? Again, I want to see Malik Henry take a step, of course, in his home building under pressure against another roster that should be very loaded and give him quite a challenge. Can you keep up? Take advantage of opportunities when you get it. That's what I'm looking at. Can Rakeem Cato, again, I want to see him start a whole game. Can we see that progression and some of the positive qualities he had against San Antonio progress with Carolina, going to the snake pit? Those are things I'm looking for.
And the other questions we can say is Darren Daniel, the guy in Columbus, and can he continue what he did off of week 1 against Jacksonville down in San Antonio? And the question is can San Antonio fix their mistakes and be prepared for a more physical coaching staff that is Columbus and Jason Gibson? And can San Antonio make possibly, I'm not saying will, but can they make adjustments where they can smack Columbus in the mouth and go, hey, Orlando's this good. Orlando's defense could be actually this good. This is why we couldn't do everything. But it's chess pieces, only week 2. And I think, honestly, my opinion, I think the game of the week is not in Jacksonville. I think it is based off just, the overall script. It's in San Antonio. What is San Antonio? Are they just, it's our first season, or was Orlando actually good enough and they fought back, and now they're testing on Columbus? Is Columbus still that Columbus team from last year with just a new guy?
Okay, so interesting. This is your game of the week.
I don't want to be too biased because I know that's my person who's watching over the league.
I see what you're doing, and
yes,
you know what? I mainly just wanted, for the Gunslingers' sake, with them being new, I want to see every week how they keep progressing, keep making steps. Right. I thought Javin Kilgo did a great job second half at operating that offense. They just couldn't. There were 1 or 2 times they couldn't finish drives. Otherwise, with how Orlando was progressing second half, whether it was putting Connor Kagi in or not, a few miscues, that was a winnable game with 7 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah.
That's what I'm curious. Like, can they keep taking those steps? We hear a lot of praise about Fred Shaw, and obviously they made adjustments and they fought back hard second half last week. Can they keep making that progress off on the practice field? That's something I want to check out. Darren Daniel, of course, seeing more, of course, Jermon Forston. I want to keep seeing more of that guy being a beast every week too. Who am I kidding? Right.
Yeah.
Plus,
he's only second all-time leading receiver in the NAL behind Devin Wilson. But yeah,
no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. But yeah, it's week 2 of the action. So on the screen right now, what you see, ladies and gentlemen, is the current standings of the National League. Yes, we've been getting a lot of people of the graphic that we have. Like, what's this for? This is what your power ranking of the 4 teams? No, this is what the playoffs would look like if they started today. The postseason, if it started today, Jackson would be traveling to Carolina and Columbus would be traveling to Orlando, which is pretty unique because a certain team in Albany is not in this top 4, but it's still only week 1. And it's based off point differential. That's why this standings is what it is today. That's where we get into entering week 2, where the standings. And the first game that I want to get into is, of course, the game that I'm going to be attending because I don't want to, we've already talked about earlier, to just get it done. It is the 0-1 Albany Empire traveling to the 0-1 Jacksonville Sharks. both me and Zach didn't think Albany was going to be 0-1 entering this game. We kind of thought that Jackson would be 0-1. Not me. I thought they would be 1-0, but Columbus kind of shut me up again, like they do, like a rival should do. But it's the Shark Tank. I've kind of, you already know my opinion about this game. But Zach, you take it away. What you think about this game here in Jackson?
Yeah. So, again, two differing philosophies here. Obviously, one is more based on the overall talent of the roster and trying to just, base it on adjusting on the fly, really kind of adjusting to your roles, but, being able to get down the Iron Man scheme. The other is feeling like it's more based around Iron Man and finding those that can fit that scheme well. As we're looking out for, Malik Henry, can we see Tim take another step this week, get that young receiving core along with Devin Wilson more opportunities to make scoring plays, make adjustments. In terms of for the Empire, clean things up. I think that's what you're going to be looking out for. Again, they have talented folks on there. Darius Prince, as we saw last week, when he's able to make his reads and given his chances, he can play defensively pretty well. He made some good plays out there too. Obviously, they have Arthur Hobbs. They got Dwayne Hollis out there. I mean, I can keep going with names of guys that, that are solid talents out in Albany. Question is, can they put it together, and can they put a solid full game together where you're able to keep up with your opponents? That defense cannot be leaky for a second week in a row. Will Henry showed that he can, of course, keep up and that he can play when needed to. So I'm going to be watching out for that. Mike Faithful, can they clean things up? Can that offensive line give him a little more protection? There were a few times against Carolina, he was getting a little bit flustered, and I wonder if that will be the case again here in Jacksonville, especially with that roaring crowd that he knows very well. That's going to be well over 7,000 when they go into the Shark Tank. I'll tell you what, for my pick, I'm taking the Sharks. I'm not joking. And I'm mainly doing this because I'm betting on, I'm really just betting on the Sharks offense, taking advantage of those leaks that the Albany Empire have given. That really kind of freaked me out last week watching them play against Carolina. And I'm taking that bet that I don't think they'll be able to clean that up in time. Are you just batting tears away?
I'm so happy about it.
Wow, look at you. But no, that's my whole thing. I think the Sharks will be able to clean up penalties, a few miscues that are more just tightening up how you play, because they have the Iron Man system down. It seemed like it was fine last week. Main thing is you can't have this many yellow flags hitting the carpet. You can't be giving away opportunities from yellow flags hitting the carpet like you did in the second half.
Correct.
I think they can clean that up, as Devin was mentioning in our interview earlier. And I'm like I said, I'm banking that defense of Albany isn't going to be able to clean it up in time, and that Henry's going to find opportunities. It's going to be a tight one, just like last year's game in the Shark Tank, but I'm taking the Sharks this year.
Oh, wow. People up in Albany are going to hate us. Just going to say for this week, with all the stuff I talked about earlier about the Shark Tank, I think this game, Jacksonville wins. And like I said and mentioned about how the NBA playoffs are, the far superior team does lose a couple times in the playoff round. Doesn't mean that they were going to lose a series. They eventually won a series. I think Jacksonville wins this game, but it's like what you said. It's going to be very close. And I think the fixing of the defense for the Albany side of the situation, I don't think that's a 1 week fix. I think that's going to progress over a couple of weeks. They got a bye week coming in pretty soon for the Albany Empire. They make it to a Florida stretch here into Orlando. So it's a two-step basically. But I look at this overall game, the key factors, I say this. If you imagine Kendrick Ings last week in Albany, if that's Devin Wilson, Albany's in trouble. Right. That means Devin Wilson's getting wide open. If that's Solomon, bad. If it's Naquan Murray, bad. Is that Rob Jones? It's bad. If Malik Henry is Malik Henry where he was in the first three quarters last week against Columbus, Jacksonville's in a very good position. The benefit for Albany, they have Mike Faithful on the offense who's been in that building. He knows how the atmosphere is, and he still has great weapons all around. I think this is a very high-scoring game, and honestly, I don't think the determining factor is going to be illegal substitutions or not. I think the determining factor is going to be special teams. Whose special teams is not going to give up that big return? Whose special teams is actually going to kick a deuce? Whose special team is actually going to make that extra point and not hit it or hit the goalpost? It's going to come down to special teams. I think these two teams, how Jackson plays at home, they play – you can say Jackson plays above what they are at home fairly on the road. That's usually how it does in any sport. I got Jacksonville in this game, and I think Jacksonville wins close, very close. But I still think Albany has the better overall roster at this time. Now, if I watch both these teams live in Jacksonville on Saturday, which I will, my attitude may change next week. But the only thing is whoever expected that in week 3, one of these teams could be 0-2. And that is for Jacksonville, it doesn't get any easier. They got Columbus, then they got Carolina, then got the Empire again. So Jacksonville's next couple of games are not going to be any easier. But we both got the Sharks, which I'm pretty surprised about.
Hey,
let's go.
That's all I'm saying. Actually, score prediction, because we got to keep up with this every week. So mine, 60-58 Sharks. It's a 2-point win. I think it'll come down to a field goal, and I think the Empire are going to miss that field goal. That's my projection.
Based on how the games went last week, everyone touched that high 50s. Kind of went a little bit too overboard in the Carolina game last week. But that first half looked like it was going to touch that number.
Look, it definitely was. I mean, the Cobras just didn't score in the fourth quarter. Really, it could have been an easy 60 burger if you just get one TD.
Yeah. Give me Jacksonville 56, Albany 49.
Okay. One touchdown difference, one possession to rule them all, right. I see. All right. I feel you. We'll save our game of the week for last. Next up, the Cobras get to go and ride high off a win, getting to host their first game of the year in the Snake Pit. They invite the Orlando Predators, coming from San Antonio all the way over the East Coast to Greensboro to have their visit to the Snake Pit. Cobras, of course, Jonathan Bain, somewhat, had a few mistakes, but like we said, was fine as receivers all day. DJ Myers continuing his tear like he did last year. Kendrick Ings just being leaky as ever and a great special teams player. What can I even say? And of course that Cobras defense showed up when needed. Those acquisitions have definitely come in and have wreaked havoc this year. As we have mentioned, of course, throughout this show. Orlando, again, watching out for, is Rakeem Cato going to play the whole game? Will that defense be able to slow down the Cobras more than the Empire did last week? I think they will a little bit. Those are the least bit of your headlines there you're watching out for in terms of this contest. For me, though, as much as I like Orlando's defense, that Cobras offense is scary to me. It really, I said that I was riding high on them last week. Watching them demolish the Empire in 3 quarters and then just kind of, even though it was an 8-point game, somewhat coast to victory in Albany. It's going to be tight. Orlando's going to be a stingy defense, but Carolina's going to overwhelm them eventually, is what I'm going to say. I'll give you my score prediction here. It'll be a little shorter. I'm going to say this one's it'll be a 53-42 contest. Carolina will pull away probably mid-4th quarter and lock it up eventually. Especially, I think it'll be tighter. Like I said, Rakeem Cato, I think, needs to play the whole game. I have said that enough this show. Just don't even do 2 QB systems, indoor, outdoor game. I dislike them whatsoever. Just pick one, go with it. And if you have to mid-game, if something's going wrong for a spark, last resort. But pick one guy. I think it's Cato for this. But it's going to be a 2-score difference. Cobras will walk away 2-0.
Well, I'm going to tell you my pick right now. Carolina.
All right.
Will win this, and here's my reason why. I look at Cato in the offense in Orlando. It looks like it's not in gear yet. There was moments last week in San Antonio where it just stalled out, and if you stall out against an offense like this, Carolina, Jonathan Bain's going to tear you apart. And by the time you look up the scoreboard, you're down 3 scores, and 3 scores it's still achievable to come back from. Very rare it happens, but it can. But you're on the road in Carolina, your first road game of the season. For Orlando, if you get Cato in the mix, roll the clock out like you did against San Antonio a couple times. Get Beavers and get outlaw the ball. Mixing a couple runs there with Alfred. One thing I look at this the defense for Orlando last week. They did a good tendency of taking away the short routes for San Antonio. San Antonio did capitalize on a couple of deep routes, which is the way the game's going to happen. But for Carolina, what you did against Albany, Orlando didn't stop against San Antonio. That was deep routes. If Kendrick Ings is wide open again, if DJ Myers is wide open at the end, James Summers is open at the end, you can torch him. And Jonathan Bain's that type of quarterback that Albany gave him time in some even plays that were very well covered, and he was putting the ball right on the money into these receivers. And yes, Orlando's defense, in my opinion, is a little bit better than Albany's right now. That doesn't mean Albany's defense is not going to improve. But right now, I just look at Orlando going into Carolina. They're going into what I like to say a buzzsaw. I think Carolina is going to win this game by 2 scores, maybe 3, possibly. I just don't. I look at Orlando's offense. I like Cato. I like how the game is played. They like what you just said. Do not put Kagi in. Stick with one quarterback. I just don't think a mobile quarterback will fit in this type of game against Carolina, especially with an offense that is Carolina, that you give them multiple chances. I don't think Orlando can slow them down, but I think that determination of that game is going to happen. You're going to see a lot of football games are decided by the line scrimmage, of course.
Right.
And a lot of the games are decided early. I think this game is going to be a second quarter game where if Orlando's still in the game in the second quarter, late in the second quarter, I think it'll be a close game throughout. But if Carolina has a 2-score lead going into halftime like they did what they did against Albany, I don't think Orlando has the offense to come back against Orlando. Orlando has offense has come back against Carolina that Albany did against Carolina. So I think Carolina wins this. I'm going to say I think they're going to be the first team to touch 60. I say 62 to 50.
Fascinating. You think they'll crack 60 on Orlando? Because like I said, I like Orlando's defense. Like they brought a lot of those top tier guys back this year, But hey, this
is not a shot at Brandon Fuentes. I still think he's a legit guy.
No,
yeah.
That's not what I'm implying. Him or Josh Jenkins or anyone on that.
They have a good second. I look
even
at
Lonnie Outlaw playing 2 ways. Too.
Yeah, or I think he played a Mac this week, if I remember. I need to go watch the highlights. But I look at Orlando, and I'm not worried about the defensive mindset. I just have a feeling that if your offense is not scoring, your defense is out there longer than your offense, you're going to lose the game.
That's a good point.
And that's why I think it's going to happen. I don't think Orlando's offense is built up enough confidence or has enough caliber weapons to go gas per gas against Carolina.
You're thinking possession economy. That's exactly what I'm looking at. You're going
to score points in arena football. An average offense is. The problem is what Carolina showed us last week. They're not an average offense.
Exactly.
They kind of, I think, put the full pedal off the gas a little bit last week against Albany. They could have very well touched 60. In my point, I was saying they're going to touch 68 last week. They have the offense that can. Bain looks pretty good. He's in good condition. He looks like he's having fun again. He looked like the Jonathan Bain in Jacksonville and Jonathan Bain in Maine, not the Jonathan Bain that played in the other league. He looks like he has it. And
he definitely, yeah.
Like I said, dude, if the championship game was today, it's Carolina and Albany. And I still believe that, no matter what the outcome is of week 2. It's just that I like Orlando's defense, like the guys in Orlando. It's just pretty hard to predict against Orlando. But when it's Carolina and how they played last week, I got to stick with the hot gun right now, and I got to stick with Carolina. So
I feel that. I mean, again, really showed up. Should be a fun contest to see him back in the snake pit.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I hope the snake pit comes out and supports, because really that first game, I think that shows you how much Coach Resinalo and company put into this roster.
A lot. They put a lot.
Following up on the signings from the end of last year, saying, let's continue that upward trend again.
And their community outreach, they've done an incredible job getting into the community with concerts and little watch parties and getting the players out there. The Carolina organization has done a lot to get fans in the stands. And I think Coach Resinalo and Storm relaunched their, Cobra Insider show that's on YouTube. That's on their YouTube page. I think that started last week. Where you go inside with the Cobras. It's a pretty unique show. They're doing their best in Greensboro, and then they're in the classic arena, Greensboro Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
That's the home of the ACC, basically. They get the fan base out there and realize the Cobras there, and they got an organization that is the Carolina Cobras right now with the Jonathan Bain, DJ Myers, and James Summers, Kendrick Ings, Nishan Robinson. The list goes on. The team is loaded. They got a big win over Albany. I expect a good crowd in Greensboro, and put a winning product in the field. They come just like any city in any place in the world. No one's going to co-pay tickets to go watch a losing franchise. They'll go see a winner and they'll support a winner. And I think Carolina has that team this year, and props to the organization. Also, what's the Honey Bunnies or the cheerleading team?
Cobra Honeys.
Cobra Honeys. They followed us on Twitter. So hello.
All right.
Oh, I guess what I forgot. Hello, YouTubers. Yeah,
I gotta get that in.
Yeah, I forgot that. But yeah, it's pretty cool that now that league sites are now following us, which is pretty cool. I appreciate it. But yeah, Coach Rez and Coach and Storm, the owner, they've done a lot this offseason, and they're not playing around. Week 1 showed that. So
absolutely should be a fun game in the Snake Pit. Final game of the weekend, though, and that's going to be our game of the week. As we want to see what San Antonio, getting into the season more, being more adjusted to the talent in the NAL. They get to play against, one of the creams of the crop, the mainstays in the NAL, as they get the Columbus Lions coming to town at the Freeman Coliseum. Second game in a row, home game hosting. We get to see the Coliseum and how it looks with that whole setup. Definitely probably the most unique setup in the NAL this season in terms of how that layout is, but it works. They have a good job getting the fan interaction, just keep building that up. And the Lions obviously are, as we've said, one of the mainstays in terms of, not only community engagement, but also just building up a franchise that has consistent success. Looking forward to that contest. Jim, I'll give you this one. What are you looking forward in this contest, at least out of San Antonio?
I want to look for a team that can correct its mistakes from last week. They came out of the gate in week 1 sluggish, and both teams did. Orlando and San Antonio did, but it seemed like it took San Antonio an extra 20 minutes in the game to finally get their act together. I don't know if that's just the introduction of the IR game or the introduction of more upper level competition from the league they played in last season. What I'm looking for the more. I want to see more rhythm between the receiving cores. There are a couple plays last week where it was a few seconds late, like a slant route, the quarterback threw it late, or an offensive lineman didn't block long enough that caused a sack. There were little mistakes, of course, penalties, and of course, or it was just of course, title of the show, illegal substitutions. We saw that in San Antonio too. And a lot of plays there was a time in that game last week. I'm like, why were you here 5 minutes just waiting, doing nothing? And realized they were reviewing play. Didn't know they were reviewing play because the announcers didn't even say anything. It was just like dead air for 5 minutes. I was like, did my sound go off? But that's more of learning the game, learning the arena game, bringing people that are knowledgeable in the game. I look at this game, and overall, I look at Columbus and I go, Gibson, we know what they're going to bring. We know they're going to bring a very fiery attitude, a team that's going to honestly could be down 2-3 scores. They're not going to give up. That's not the Coach Gibson way. He made a famous quote in the Inside the Line series where he's been up 21 points and lost, and he's been down by 21 points and won. That's a mentality that Columbus has. Columbus is coming in with a mentality, and for San Antonio fans who are getting introduced to the NAL, the Columbus Lions are what we like to call that consistent franchise. They're always there. They play for 3 championships already. They know how to win. And no matter if it's week 2, week 6, NAL championship game, you're not going to walk all over. It's very hard to beat the Columbus Lions and dominate them. They are an organization that will play to the very end, no matter what the score is. That's the mentality that I would love to see San Antonio develop, to see if they rebound. This is also the reason why I said this is game of week. This is make or break for San Antonio. I know this will be week 2, but you have 2 weeks, 5 weeks back to back, followed by a 3-game road trip.
Yes.
You could come back to the Coliseum 0-5 before you're finally home against, and of course, that team that you're playing home to, and that week is, Carolina. That's not good. Not a good team to be reintroduced back home. This is a pivotal point because if you lose this week against Columbus, you're away from your house for 5 weeks. Not what you like to call big time for the fans. That's just 6 weeks away from your home. Really doesn't, that's a fan killer, honestly. But I look at this guy, looking at the field itself, look at the game itself. I want to see more consistent play between the quarterback and receivers. And the defense for San Antonio impressed me a little bit against Orlando. I was surprised that they gave up. That second half, they played a lot better than the first half.
Oh, yeah.
Made some adjustments. made some key situations. They didn't kill themselves a lot of penalties, and they fought back in the game, which I love to see. But I think that was also with Orlando trying to find their identity of Cato or Kagi at that time. But we answered that question about Cato. What I'm looking into this game is not the fans in the stands, not packed in the building. Please go to the San Antonio games. Got a good 4 tickets for $100. That's a great deal. 4 tickets for $100. Very cheap family fun. Go to Ticketmaster or call San Antonio authority or people in San Antonio. Call Hector for tickets. That's what you do.
There you go.
Go pack the Freeman Coliseum. I look at this game, and it comes down to 2 things. Can San Antonio fix those mistakes? Can they be more consistent on offense? Can that defense then bring that second half performance into the first half against first half or the game against Columbus? And I look over to Columbus. Do what you do. You play like you played Jacksonville against San Antonio, you win this game easily. But when I said last week entering the games, we had the question mark on San Antonio, what San Antonio's going to do, and then multiple questions popped up after week two. Well, speak English. Multiple questions that popped up were the Iron Man rule, the legal substitution. Is Carolina serious? Is San Antonio legit? Are they just a bad start? What should they do? And the other one is, oh yeah, Columbus hasn't changed. This game right here is going to come down to, can San Antonio make those mistakes? Can they be competitive in the fourth quarter against Columbus and Darren Daniel and Gibson? Because if Columbus plays like they did against Jacksonville, against San Antonio is going to be in a herd of trouble. They'll be starting 0-2 and have 2 weeks to think about before having to go on the road to try and correct their mistakes. And I think they travel to Carolina when they come back after their 2-week bye. So that's not a good team to start off after a bye week. But I like to see see them correct mistakes. But this might be the shocker of all shockers, ladies and gentlemen. San Antonio does stay in this game. They do figure things out. It's their second game in NAL. But Columbus finds a way to win the game in the second half, like they always do, the Columbus way. It's going to be a battle in the first half. It's going to be a battle somewhere in the third quarter. Then Columbus, like, we're better than you. We have better talent. We're better coached, so on and so forth. I think they're the better team right now. But the score is going to be unique. You're going to get that same sluggish type of score that we had in week one. I think Columbus wins this game 56-48 final score.
Okay. You took a lot of words right out of my mouth. I want to see, mainly for me, San Antonio, I just want to see improvement. I'm taking this more as an eval year for them as an organization. Again, this is another great test, of course. I think another level up from what Orlando had last week. And for the Columbus Lions, I want to see some progression. Darren Daniel getting a little more comfortable in that offense, finding his guys on the outsides, of course. Defensively, I think the Lions have their things figured out, of course. Yeah. What can I say? But, I think it's really just about evaluating the gunslingers in this case, week by week. And I think they'll get better. I think that they'll have another chance to get better this week. I think that they'll have a little more consistency. They had a chaotic lead up to the year, just having a bunch of rotation of that quarterback position and a few other positions. Remember, they're supposed to have Philip Barnett on the outside at one point, and now that's just kind of trying to adjust on the fly. But I think you'll see a little more of a calm performance from the Gunslingers. I do think it'll be competitive going into halftime, but I do have the Columbus Lions coming out 50-40 is what I got at the end of this contest. You'll see the Gunslingers score a little more, but eventually you're going to get 1 or 2 plays from a more talented Lions squad that will make the difference in this.
I think, like overall pick we just did, I think Jacksonville and Albany would be the more competitive game between the three, and I think Orlando and San Antonio just run out of gas against Columbus and Carolina. But overall, week two, the things I want to see in week two, not just in San Antonio, just not in Jacksonville, just not in Albany or in Carolina. Substitutions. Let's see how these teams adjust to. Did they learn from their mistakes from week one? Can we, get the flow of game to increase? This is not official stats. This is just based on me doing my own time watching the games. There was an hour and 12 minutes of stoppage time in week one action between the three games total. That's between substitution violations to reviews. That's not an arena game. That's not the mentality of the yes. I can deal with
speed it up.
I can deal with the review times because that's just history. That's history in every league, no matter what league it is. Except for the USFL, they found a way to do it pretty fast. But I think the substitution thing, that's the thing that I want to kick. And also kick the deuces. Just go for it. I don't care. Yeah, give the big men some time to rest when they're on special teams. Like, don't let me run down this field. Make them. I think that's going to be just in time. But overall, week 2, crap. This is we're recording during a week. Had a great guest, Devin Wilson. Had the rewards. Also, it's just week 2's here. If you're in Jacksonville, meet me, section 108. That's where I sit. Mm-hmm. I can give you all the nuggets that I know, which means you're not going to get any of it because you can go buy them at the concession stands right behind me for all the nuggets that you can get. But yeah, I'm looking forward to being in Jacksonville, and I just want to see those things. 2 main things fixed this weekend is just speed up the time with the substitution stuff. I can deal with the review time. I don't want to be sitting in the game for 5 minutes going, what the heck's going on?
Right.
What we're doing here. You're killing the vibe of the game. And also I want to see clean football, which we did last week. We had a lot of clean action around the league. And of course, week 2. And it's interesting. Shark Tank's going to be rocking. Carolina's going to be rocking. And fans in San Antonio, go out there and support your gunslingers. Tickets are cheap. Family 4-pack for $100. Call Hector. I'll go support the team down in San Antonio. It's been the last time for a long time, for 6 weeks. So go out there, support the team. I'm looking forward to it, man. I really, again, official podcast of the National Arena League. I'm so grateful for that. And hey, we can't go. We have questions. I forgot about that.
Hey, I was going to lead them in. I was ready.
Okay.
I was ready to load them in.
Okay, let me exit stage left and get the questions going.
Look at you.
See ya.
You're just keeping me honest. That's all you're doing.
All right. It's like, we had a question.
You're keeping me honest. That's okay.
Right. Look, I was exiting the show and I completely forgot there were questions.
Look, I was going to give them to here. Let's get into these questions here. So we have one from one of our good buddies on our Discord server, which, by the way, if you want to join that up, feel free. We'll give you the link there, Inside the Walls podcast. We should have that available on our social platforms in the description, as well as these videos. So keep that in mind. You can drop questions on that site. One said question is, with Grady and Espinoza no longer in the league, who is the best quarterback in the National Arena League, in our opinion? Look, I already I actually answered that question on there on accident. I say it's Jonathan Bain, just off of week 1. And just how comfortable that offense looked with him there, the weapons he's got there too. There's a case you can make for, I think, Mike Faithful. I want to see Malik Henry and how he develops. I've said that enough. Had a really great start there, of course. But I think even with Espinoza and Grady gone, there's QB talent still is really thriving, right now. So it's good to see that the NAL is still high scoring, still high pass-based action, good passing games. But I got Bain right now as my number 1 if we're doing a QB ranking.
Yeah, Bain, number 1. To answer that question, honestly, the quarterbacks in our league right now are not Tommy Grady and are not Mason Espinoza. I'm gonna stun you a little bit. I think the best quarterback in the league is still Mike Faithful. I just think he just had a bad opening week. And
I can't argue with that. I think the 2 ex-Sharks QBs make arguments in their own right.
Yeah. If the Sharks can't win, we can win from other teams.
Yeah, sure.
There's a couple plays against Carolina that Faithful threw the football with a zip, and that's a quarterback that's going to win a lot of football games. It's just that sometimes, depending on what type of situations happen, you lose games. You're going to happen. It's the arena games. What Devin Wilson said. We were almost up by 3 scores and lost. That's the arena game. I still think Faithful is the best quarterback in the league, but Jonathan Bain is not. And I mean, not that far behind. Mike Faithful may be on the 10-yard line. Bain's on the 9. He's that right there. Stats-wise, if you look at based off stats, Mike Faithful is the best quarterback in the league just based off stats. But Jonathan Bain, in his career in the National Arena League and in other leagues, he's put up a resume to say he is the guy in the National Arena League this year because of what he's done in the past. It doesn't mean what he's done this year, but off of week one's performance, he did do a hell of. There are some drives against Albany. I'm like, yeah, that's the best player in the league right now for the quarterback position. And also, you look at Faithful, he made some decisions that cost him. Quarterbacks make dumb decisions because, it's quarterbacks. And it's a running game, fast paced. And again, what you mentioned about Malik Henry. Keep an eye on Malik Henry. I think he was very composed in the first 3 quarters against Columbus. There's talent there. He has he threw a couple passes to Devin Wilson and to Solomon and to Rob Jones last week. I'm like, ooh, that can be picked off. Now look at the replay, go, oh, there's no way that defender can get to that ball. That only receiver can get it. But it looked like it was a bad throw. He has the talent. He has the zip. So overall, all 6 quarterbacks have their own tendencies. It seems like Columbus has the semi-mobile quarterback with a good arm. San Antonio has that mobile quarterback, period. And Orlando with Cato, he wants to be a pocket quarterback with mobile tendencies, if you want to say that. But all 3 of the pocket quarterbacks, from Jacksonville to Albany to Carolina, I think right now have the edge over the other 3. Even though Darren Daniel just won the game, he won the game off his feet and his arm. But Darren Daniel fits that system in Columbus, and Columbus, damn it, just wins games on the system. But right now, if number 1 overall, I think it's Faithful right now. But Bain's not that far behind, and I really want to see what Blake Henry does against Albany in weeks to come.
Yeah. Should be a good one. That was our main question of the week there for those. Again, feel free, drop them on our Discord. Join the Discord, by the way. We have plenty of conversation on the NAL in there with many diehard fans of our show and of the game itself. Also, drop your questions on our Facebook, or you can do it through Twitter. We try and get as many as we can and monitor all those channels to get questions on the show. That's going to be a regular segment throughout the year, so please feel free to drop some, and we'll answer as best as possible. But yeah, that is about it for our show.
Also, subscribe to our YouTube page.
Yes.
Because we get 100 subscriptions, someone's getting 2 free tickets.
That's right. We are at currently just over 56 subs. If we get to 100 subscribers, you get to pick the game of your choice in the National Arena League that you can have 2 tickets to go to that said game. We'll send those your way. We are almost there. So the 100th subscriber will get 2 tickets to the NAL game of their choice. And I mean, any of the 6. So like you can go all the way over San Antonio, you can go all the way up north, all the way to Albany, and all the way down the East Coast. So feel free, subscribe to the channel if you may. Also follow us on your favorite social media platforms at In Walls Pod. Again, that is at In Walls POD for your favorite podcast content from us following along with the NAL. Especially if you want to check out, if you want to follow along with Jim's graphics he makes for all this stuff. I mean, you might want to, at least give us a follow on there because he's been putting in the work to make this stuff for the standings, the power rankings, you name it. It's all there for you.
Not that hard, but thank you anyway.
I'm just saying, it looks good. It looks good, Jim.
It makes us look official. Oh, wait.
Wait a minute.
Because we are.
Gotta put that little extra effort in there. Yeah. But yeah, feel free to follow us and subscribe. Thank you for tuning into the show. Really, we've been blown away by the support, getting plenty of more listeners in that we've been having more and more as the season's kicked off. And, again, thanks to the National Arena League once more for making us the official podcast of the NAL itself. For myself and for Jim, saying so long till next week. And remember one thing.
Don't be a jack out of the box.
Until week 3, stay tuned, everyone.